Hey everybody, what is up? Startup Survival here with another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about The Book of Eli. Another movie similar to The Road in the sense that it's sort of the ultimate bug out, sort of a lone traveler on the road trying to get somewhere to salvation, right? I chose to review The Road first because that's a movie that connected with me a lot more. I do agree with a lot of people that it is kind of a depressing movie, whereas The Book of Eli is a bit more hopeful, but along with that comes a much closer connection with reality as I see it with The Road versus The Book of Eli, which has a lot of sort of unrealistic components. So for those of you who haven't seen it, it's sort of a post-apocalyptic film starring Denzel Washington opposite Gary Oldman as the villain. And the crisis in question is not explained very well, but it's post-war. I'm assuming it's a nuclear war because they talk about tearing a hole in the sky, people going blind, everybody hiding underground for a long period of time. They come back up, and what you see now is sort of the aftermath of that. So, it's not the most realistic movie in the world, which I will get into, but I do think that there's some important prepping lessons, bug out lessons that can be learned from it. So number one, gangs and tribal leadership. So Eli, the hero, he's on his journey and he encounters both roadside gangs and also sort of a large gang that's controlling a small town. So these gangs, I think, are sort of a realistic thing that could happen in any sort of really, really bad, long-term WROL, shit hit the fan type situation. I think everybody kind of agrees on that. So they maintain sort of a tribal leadership over a small region, and they do so through force. The guys on the side of the road, they were armed with baseball bats, pipes, sort of melee type weapons. In the town, they had rifles, shotguns, handguns, and even like a really large tactical like Gatling gun as well. So I do think that's something that you would see in a real shit hit the fan type situation. There's power in numbers for sure. Next thing I want to talk about is the whole hero aspect to the film. This is what not to do. Don't set off on a really long journey on foot by yourself without a definite game plan in mind. It seems to work out pretty well for Eli because he is sort of guided by faith and given supernatural powers, such as being able to dodge bullets and kill a crowd of people with only his sword and this sort of unrealistic stuff. But I definitely think that's like not the right way to go. I do think that the roving gangs have it right. There's power in numbers. We live in a society, right? So I mean, even if there's a total breakdown of society, we're going to try to rebuild it on some scale that approximates what we have now. Small towns will come back. I mean, if you've ever read James Wesley Rawls' Patriots, his whole sort of plan is based around forming a team of survivors with sort of skills that complement each other and that sort of thing. So going it alone is definitely not the way to go. The other thing that happens to Eli is he gets shot and he just like repairs himself with duct tape and he manages to make it all the way halfway across the country after that. So there's a lot of sort of unrealistic things going on there. What not to do, definitely. You can learn as much from what not to do as what to do. Weapons. Weapons equal power. We talked about this in the Road video, and I think some people misunderstood my perspective. I wish that there was no need for guns in sort of rule of law. And I think there's a lot of bad things that come from guns, but I will never debate the importance of having defense and having a means of hunting under a WROL type situation. So the type of weapons that we see in the film are a sword, which Eli's carrying around. He kind of pulls it out of his backpack and goes to town with it. He's also got a bow and arrow, which he uses for hunting. He kills both a cat and a bird with that. He's also got a sawed-off shotgun and a semi-automatic pistol with him. The bad guys have similar type of guns, as well as a rifle, and they also have, like I mentioned before, that super high power Gatling gun, machine gun kind of thing. So yeah, weapons equal power, they equal being able to defend yourself. Under rule of law, arguably they're not necessary, but under WROL, they're indispensable tools. I'll agree with that 100%. So food and water, that's kind of an interesting subject of the film. Partially explained, partially unexplained. So there are cannibals in the movie, again, similar to The Road. And the way that they're identified is by the shaking hands. And I Googled this. Go to Wikipedia and type in Kuru, K-U-R-U. Apparently this is a documented illness as a result of cannibalism. In Papua New Guinea, there were some people there doing the cannibal thing, and that was a symptom of what they were doing, as they started to have the shaking hands, and they were like laughing and sort of tweaking out, I guess. So that's kind of interesting that that's somewhat based on reality. There are underground springs of water. This is where the town is getting its water from. And I do think that's pretty realistic. I think that as an individual or as a society, we all need water, so we're going to base ourselves around water supplies. I think that's totally cool. As for the food, I already mentioned that Eli hunts for his food when he's on the go. You see him take down like a bird out of the sky with the bow and arrow, and also he kills a cat. I understand that. But as for the town itself, and I'll talk more about that in a second, but they're set up with like a hotel, some like marketplace, and also like a bar, and there's no explanation for where the food comes from. Like, do they have a farm? Are they eating stored food? I don't know. Suspension of belief. I found that kind of unrealistic. So also community, that's like an interesting part of the film. And I do think that after the grid goes down, then it starts to come back up again. Along the way, people are going to sort of recover from the shock, and they're going to seek out like-minded individuals to form a community with. And so there is a small town in this movie, and it's controlled by this dude Carnegie, played by Gary Oldman, and he turns out to be the villain. But the way it's controlled is through force. He attracts other powerful people to work under him, and they exert control over the town through force. In the town there's a shop that's sort of a marketplace. Eli goes there to recharge his MP3 player, an iPod that apparently has been working for 30 years. He's able to trade things there. Like, I forget what he trades for. He trades like a Zippo lighter and something else for a recharge of his MP3 player. Also in the bar, he trades like a pair of leather gloves and like a scarf or something to have his canteen filled with water. So community, like we need each other, and we can help each other through complementary skills. Totally cool. Another thing I'll mention is backpacks, okay? So this is sort of like the ultimate bug out. Eli's walking around for 30 years, he says. He's got a backpack with, which is, it must be like a magic backpack from like Harry Potter or something, considering how much stuff he fits in there. He's got a shotgun, a bow and arrow, a pistol, a sword, a bunch of other stuff. Like, he's got the book with him, which I haven't talked about much yet, but so he's got all this stuff in there, but really, a bag in that type of situation, it's your car, it's your home away from home, it's everything. And you need to be prepared to defend whatever is in there, because most likely you're going to be carrying whatever is most valuable to you. So people do try to take the bag away, they try to look inside, take the contents. Eli has to defend his possessions. So something to consider is the importance of choosing a good bug out bag and being able to carry it. It's really your home away from home, so take good care of it. Another thing in the film is transportation, okay? So there's some realistic aspects to that and unrealistic. The realistic part is that there's a lot of people walking. Eli is walking, he's on foot. They seem to be traveling routes along the major highways where they do encounter the Roman gangs. So arguably, it would be better to stay off main routes and try to find like parallel, quieter streets or something like that to avoid the crowds. Surely, people will be vacating the cities and whatnot by the most major routes, which are highways, which will turn into parking lots basically when people run out of fuel. But yeah, there are people driving cars in the film, and that's a real sort of out to lunch kind of thing for me. It's been 30 years since the crisis, and somehow they still have gas to drive their cars. No explanation whatsoever. Furthermore, Eli and his friend that he meets along the way, Samara, this young girl that he just becomes friends with, and she helps him out. Towards the end, they get in a car and they drive from New Mexico out to San Francisco. They almost fall off the Golden Gate Bridge, by the way, but Yeah, that's on like a single tank of gas. There's no explanation for where they refueled or whatever. So I find that whole aspect of it, that people are going to be driving around in cars that far into the crisis or whatever, I find that to be complete BS. Like, the gas stations will run out of fuel very quickly, as will your personal vehicle. So whatever your plan is, if it's based in large part around a motorized vehicle, I would definitely rethink that. The last thing I'll mention is the book, okay? So, I mean, the Book of Eli, obviously it's about a book. And the book is, of course, the Christian Bible. So, that's another reason why this movie didn't personally connect with me. I'm not a faith-based person, per se. At least it's not a large part of my life. And, yeah, so, I mean, like, the book gives Eli these magical powers. You know, he's on a mission to share the book with humanity, I guess, to save the book, because after the war they tried to destroy it. Carnegie, Gary Oldman, the evil dude, is after the book because he knows the power that it possesses. He remembers an earlier time when people respected the book, you know, it had influence over their lives. And there's absolutely no question that religion is a source of power. And it's been used for good and for bad all throughout the world. You know, wars have been fought in the name of religion. People donate tons of money in the name of religion. So it's definitely, faith is a very personal thing, and I definitely respect people of all faiths, but there's no question that it can be used for power and to manipulate people. So it's interesting how the book represents sort of good and hope and, you know, all that stuff, but it also represents corruption, control, and power. So I guess that's pretty much all I have to say about the film. I do definitely think it's worth watching. It's a good movie, you know, but for me, it just didn't seem very realistic in a lot of different ways that I really couldn't overlook. It's totally enjoyable. I think there's some good lessons there. Let me know what you guys think, and if there's any other movies you want me to review,